You are looking live at a daily chart of the Nasdaq. Welcome to my daily stock update. The stock market update today was, a lot of short covering after, this cascading selling on the Nasdaq. Today is Earth Day, right? So I got to say welcome to all those who are celebrating Earth Day. Anyway, the Nasdaq, during this run, we had this easy money period, where the index stayed above the 21. And I was thinking that, man, we could have maybe a year like 2017 or, the precedent analysis of the 2003 bull market. But, this tells me otherwise. So you got to be flexible and change your mind. We had a big sell-off, and today we had a little what I could perceive as a short covering rally. The index was up 169 points, or 1.1%, on 12% below the average 50-day volume. You could see on the SMA there, the 50 SMA in red, 3.8% below this red line here. So still in no man's land between the 200, 5.9% above the 200, 3.8 below the 50. So, but it is day one of an attempted rally here, so something to take note of. And speaking of which, I'm going to go to the S&P 500 first, I guess. I was going to go to the Dow, but I'll go to the S&P. Pretty similar, except for this is only 2.1% below the 50. A nice little rally on, lighter volume, 5% below the 50-day average volume for the S&P 500. But, we'll take it. Day one of an attempted rally. So just observing what's going on here in the market after, this big run of 5 months of easy money. Now it, sells off. It's hard for the longs and the shorts to make money in a market like this, because believe me, a lot of shorts got tore up today. They're getting a little cocky on the short side, and they got their faces ripped off, and that's what happens. It's difficult to be short or long right now. It's a tough market, very tough market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is on tomorrow, on watch for day 4 of an attempted rally here. We could have a follow-through day as soon as tomorrow. What's a follow-through day? Well, we want the index to be up 1% or higher with the volume above today's volume. So that's all we're looking for, is a move of 1%, maybe 382 points or more, and above volume higher than today. So that's what we're looking for tomorrow. I mean, it all comes down to well, I better go to the IWM first and just show this is day 2. When the S&P and the Nasdaq were selling off Friday, this one stopped going down and had an attempted rally day 1. Today's day 2. So for the Russell 2000, tomorrow's day 3. So the Dow Jones and the Russell are definitely something to watch for there. I'm not predicting anything. I'm just making a comment, just observing. We're just observing here. Not making any bold predictions. All right, I have to go to the financials. Well, no, I'm going to go to the Magnificent Seven first. Apple, I mean, I had a friend saying wants to, buy this. I'm going, why? It's in a downtrend. Yeah, it's got a small dividend, pays you dividend to hold it. And if you're a bottom fisher, maybe you're not going to get a better price than 165. I don't know. It's just in a downtrend, and I don't like buying stocks in downtrends. That's all. That's just me. But anyway, good luck to him. Tesla's, same thing, went down today on price cuts. Tesla just seems like it doesn't have a bottom here. I'm not going to make predictions on where it's going to go, but it's making these lower lows, So anytime a stock is making, lower lows, there's no telling how low she might go. And today, if I get the price tracker here, we can see the low today was 138.80. So I don't know if that's the low, if the low's in, but man, this thing is in a free fall. Anyway, I was going to say this week's all about earnings. Thank goodness it's not about inflation data or Fed speak or geopolitical stuff. These stocks are going to trade on, earnings from these big cap, mega cap technology stocks. And if you believe like I do that this is a new bull market with the AI theme, these companies have to hit home runs and they have to, have to raise guidance going forward. Yeah, Microsoft sold off below the 50, and that stands to reason. I mean, it had a big run, right? And so now there's profit taken into the print, but if they hit a home run or a grand slam, like I think they're going to, this thing could rally right back through. It's 50. It's very plausible scenario. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could. And I'm just keeping an open mind and trying to remain flexible as these big mega cap companies report. Meta Platforms, the same thing, had a big run up. Yeah, it sold off a little bit. It doesn't mean that the institutions hate it. It's just they're being cautious ahead of the number on what's tomorrow. Okay, so this is Wednesday. They report on Wednesday. So yeah, these are big reports that are going to impact the markets. And Google is the last one. Google is a stock that if it didn't have earnings, I would be interested in buying this. It hasn't gone down with the index. It's holding steady, getting supported. It's moving averages, and that's what a trend trader wants to see supported the MAs. But they're going to report on the 25th, so you just have to wait till the print is out. And for those three, they're definitely looking pretty good. Amazon. Let me see. Amazon reports next week. Yeah. And it's just below the 50. Tried to recapture it today. It just looks like a little bit of short covering today. Shorts have, had a pretty good run here recently, and now it's time to take profits ahead of these big reports. Yeah, this one closed just a tick below the 50. It's just right at the 50. So Amazon looks good. And then NVIDIA, I want to talk a little bit about NVIDIA because it's, very popular stock. But anyway, when a stock sells off like it did on Friday, it's just in a free fall and it trades down 84 points. On the following day, you want to get roughly half of that back. $40 would have been great. It was up 33, but if I own that, I'd say I'll take it. I don't think it's a buy here, but with NVIDIA, this thing broke out at 500 and ran straight to 974. Okay, so normally, stick with me here. Normally, a stock that breaks out at 500 runs to 600 and consolidates. Okay, a 20% move, you would expect it to form, another base here, have some sellers come in, form a little pattern, but no, it just had a little shelf for a couple of days and ran right through 700, through 800, through 900, all the way up to 974 without consolidating. So now it's going to start consolidating in I don't know what it's going to do in a base, maybe it'll flatten out around that, 800 number. I don't know. But it did make that big, massive move. And a 50% retracement to me, would be plausible, which was 733. Or around, I would just call it around 730. And then on Friday, it got down to 756. So that might be close enough. Inside day today. And so, it's doing, if I was long, I would be saying, it's doing what I would want it to do. It got nearly half of that move back and it's just consolidating. So, like I said, if I bought at 500, if I bought properly in a proper base, then I'm okay with this day today. If you bought up here and you were chasing above 800, now you're underwater and you're going, I got to sell. My rule is to sell below the 50 anyway. So, I'm no longer holding NVIDIA because I don't know how low it will go or how long it will last. But today I would say was an encouraging sign for the longs of NVIDIA. All right, I'm going to move on from NVIDIA. And I will say, though, I will say that this is the first pullback to the 50 after this breakout from a base. And I know it's sliced at 50 and it's below the 50, but like I say, these things can rally, right back through their moving averages this week. We could see a V-shaped recovery. I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying be open-minded and flexible that we could see a V-shaped rally. We could see more selling to the downside. We could just trade sideways. So like I said, just have an open mind and be flexible and just observe what's going on in the market. You don't have to be buying and selling and trading stocks every day. Anyway, let me see here. I've got to go to the financials. This is Charles Schwab. I had it on my Reddit list today. I kind of like, the weekly chart here. If you look, had this big, cup shaped pattern prior, and then it didn't break out. It pulled back, had this 3 weeks tight pattern. And if I go to the weekly, this is just like one long handle here, this 3 weeks tight and then pull back to the moving average. It looks like just one long handle. Yeah, that's all this noise here. Right here, it's kind of like a shelf, and then it pulled back to a moving average and moved higher today. I still like it here at 74.26. There's obvious rotation into the financial stocks, out of the mega cap technology and into one area is the financials. I like to see groups going higher, not just lone wolves. When the entire group is going higher, then there's a rotation into the entire sector. And for me, here's Wells Fargo. This one broke out of a base and formed pretty significant little shelf pattern here, and now has broken out. It almost pulled back to the 50 here, and now is broken higher following its earnings report. So it made a new high today, new 52-week high, as did Schwab. So the financials are strong. I have no problem with the financials being strong. I have a problem with the commodities being strong. This is Goldman Sachs. You can see their earnings line starting to reverse higher. The stock coming out of a stage 1 base here. Goldman Sachs, it looks pretty good. So there's definitely rotation into these financial institutions. Bank of America, again, pull back to the 50, rallied through it, and Bank of America looks good as well. All right, I'm going to move on from the banks. I did mention the oil stocks. If I was going to buy one, this would be the one to buy. ExxonMobil, part of the XLE, big part of it, like 20% of it. But it's got this big base on the weekly, this big stage 1 base here, and just handling out. This one looks pretty good. And if it's going to make a move, it's probably going to be a, pretty decent sized move up to the 140 area. So it pays you a decent dividend yield, and it's a slow mover, probably not going to kill you. But yeah, and ExxonMobil, what are you going to say? I like it. I mean, I like the chart pattern. I don't like it. Commodity stocks going higher. This is Chevron. It was up 1.2% today. A little like Exxon, but a little bit, lagging of Exxon, but still it's got that cup with handle pattern. The earnings line is, going a little sideways there, which I don't like, but it once again pays a nice yield, and the chart setup is pretty decent for a Chevron. Weatherford, this one pulled back to the 50 for the first time, since the breakout here, and it broke out from a base, made that high of 127, then pulled back to the 50, and then it found support there and bounced nicely the last couple sessions. Now, I mentioned this because this doesn't work all the time. I bring it up a lot, but it doesn't happen all the time. There's no setup in the market that happens 100% guaranteed every time. It doesn't exist. If it did, we'd all wait for this. I just wait for every stock to come back to the 50s. You're going to find support, but we're dealing with odds here in the market. It's like playing poker. There's good odds that the first pullback to the 50 in a decent market, not in a bear market, but in a decent market, is going to find support and bounce higher. And that's what Weatherford did. So I'm going to move on. Remember that, though, because I have a couple other stocks. And Tidewater broke out from a base, and maybe it wants to pull back to its 50. I'm not sure. But another oil and gas stock. Some of the oil and gas stocks were looking pretty good. I had a bunch of them that I was going to put on my ready list, but I kept the ready list kind of tight this week because I'm not real confident in the direction of the market. This is CVE. I think it's Canadian oil and gas integrated stock. It's up 1.2% today, but I just like the chart pattern here. Support at the moving averages, trading sideways within a base with a prior, move higher. I kind of like that one. There's just a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. I didn't even look at them today, to be honest with you. I'm just doing this ad lib. EOG, another one. Big move up. Now it's consolidating within a base, trading sideways, finding support at a moving average. I didn't put this one on the ready list either. There's just a lot of them, that I was going to put on, but I didn't because of the market conditions. We just keep it simple, keep it small. For now, that could change during the week. All right. So I did finances, oil and gas. I'm not going to do the miners just yet. I got to I gotta say, you gotta buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. The airline stocks are looking good after reporting earnings. They had a nice positive response, rallied through the 50 here, and this is a United Airlines, and it is prepared for takeoff. Man, real strong stock. Now, this is still, trading within that stage one base, but you'd probably rather get it lower than higher, right? If if you're interested in that. But the group is, a top 30 group. So it's looking pretty good for these stocks. There's definitely some volume here, so there's some institutional support. Up 5% today. That's a heck of a move. Alaska Airlines, once again, traded higher following their earnings, pulled back to the 21, found support, moving higher. So these are looking good. The airline stock, yeah, stage one base. So maybe they'll make a more longer and sustained move here. Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, and American Airlines. I think those ones are looking like some of the better ones in the airline group. There's some that do not look very good, and I'm not going to go through them. Delta, again, looks pretty good. You got to look at the weekly charts here, consolidating within this base here. This is a stage two base. That's stage one. This is stage two. Earnings line trading a little higher there. It was up more than 3% today. So Delta looks good. This is a nice cup with handle pattern, supported the moving averages. Yeah, I like that pattern as well. But like I said, I had that on my watch list, but I just didn't include it on the ready list this week. Like I said, I'm just keeping it kind of small this week. I'm gonna wait and see what happens with all these the new data points. Okay, I've got to go to the drug stocks because drugs, like Novo Nordisk, if you look at this stock on the weekly, when the index rallied, first of all, I'm going to go to the bear market of 2022. Okay, this thing does not trade with the indexes because when we had that bear market for all of 2022, this thing just kind of went sideways like the whole time. Actually, it was even back here, like December of 21 through 22, and then 23 started. Okay, it rallied a little bit, but we had this little 5-month rally here. This thing did nothing in October, November, December. It didn't do anything. Went sideways. Once January hit, it made this big move to 138, and now it's just consolidating in a base. And so what you need to see from the long side, I'm going to forget about this 50 here. It's just consolidating within this flat base pattern. What you want to see is, okay, sellers taking profits, sellers getting out of the way, sellers don't want the stock anymore. And now you need to see it build the right side of the base where some buyers are starting to nibble, getting interested before their earnings report on May 2nd. So that's what I'm looking for to build the right side of the base here. I mean, it could completely fall apart. I doubt that, but it's definitely one that I am watching. Another one that I'm watching is Day One. This one is got upgraded today by, I forget the firm that upgraded it, but it was up, nearly 3%. They're going to get news from the FDA soon. I believe April 30th they're due. And that 1536 number to me, it closed right there today. That's an area of interest for me because this thing is just consolidated, for a long time. And if it wants to handle out and then get news and move higher above the 18 level, that's 1785, I would like that as well. So definitely one that I am watching. And just to play small. You don't have to, get big, but just play small if you want to nibble and take a bite out of a speculative biotech stock. I believe they have a news from the NVDA the FDA on cancer drug. So it's a hit or miss proposition, outhouse or penthouse. It's either going to go up quite a bit or go down quite a bit. And speaking of which, Aquestive Therapeutics, this one was up 6% today. They're going to get news pretty soon. I believe the 28th, which is that Saturday or Sunday? So it'll probably be, probably by Friday, maybe Friday afternoon. We'll just have to wait and see. But they have the epinephrine. They are going to replace the EpiPen with their film. So I don't know. The Baker brothers got in last week, so it's definitely a stock of interest. It made this high of 623, broke out of this base. broke out of this little consolidation here, hit 623 and now pulled back and formed a little shelf pattern as it, found supported its 50 SMA. So definitely a speculative name, but could be explosive mover with approval. So those two come with quite a bit of risk. And I'm going to move on to the crypto stocks because I know you're all interested in crypto. Clean Spark, this is one that let me see. Okay, so there was halving today with the crypto, and this one trades with crypto, and the digital currency markets were up, and this one, just from a technical standpoint, you can see that it's made these big moves, right? This thing has the ability to move fast. 3 to 13, 6 to 23, 14 to 24. And so maybe it's going to make one of these moves back above 25. It undercut, it came from 24 below 15, undercut the 50 now, rallied back through with this volume. So somebody's buying this thing the last 4 or 5 sessions. And this is while the Nasdaq is selling off. This thing started to, bottomed and now starting to show strength, up 11% today. So I had this one on a Reddit list. I like it a lot. I think it's got room to move higher. It's just one of those wild stocks that, it's it's a bucking bronco. If you sit there and watch it all day, it'll buck you off. But if you just kind of let it move, I think it's going higher. So anyway, coin, and one of my friends shorted coin. He thinks this is a bear wedge, and he's right. It does look like a bear wedge, but man, this thing was up 7% today. And like I said, it's just tough to short in this market, and it's tough to be long. It's just, really chopping people up. So I think he covered, that's a pretty big move, 7%. That's Coinbase, and you can see that it broke out of this base, ran higher, now pulled back to the 50 for the first time, but it's kind of squatting there. And you don't want to see it squat for a long time. You want to see it come down and bounce like Weatherford did. And so the squat there, I think that is bearish. The longer it stays there, the more bearish that wedge becomes. And the other one is MicroStrategy. This one's up a lot this year. You could see the ants, the David Ryan ants. But anyway, it broke out, ran up to 2000, essentially 19,999, pulled back to the 50. Now it's squatting here. Had a nice move today of nearly 13%, but it's got to get off that moving average. Anyway, that's it for the crypto stocks. I do have to go to the miners just to point out they're starting to pull back a little bit. And this is good for me, from my perspective. I like to see this because the miners it's commodity, right? And you don't want to see the commodities ripping too much. But anyway, this one broke out, ran higher. Now just pulled back to the 21 and found support. So that's doing absolutely nothing wrong. CCJ, D'Amico, nice consolidation here, cup with handle, pull back to the 21, found support. That's doing nothing wrong. I like that chart setup as well. And then Alcoa, yeah, another one that, it's consolidated. It's got this base, is trading and finding support at moving averages and trading sideways. So I like that one as well. Anyway, I'm going to go to the insurance companies because I was reading that the insurance, your auto insurance and the shelter are the two primary culprits for inflation right now. So I don't know if you looked at your auto insurance bill, you probably had sticker shock. This is Oscar. It's forming a base. You could see, pretty easy to see this consolidation pattern and finding support here at the moving averages. I put this on the ready list. I like this chart pattern as well. It moved up and now trading sideways, just finding support at the moving averages. I'm not expecting a big move until, it gets up to 1855, but, trade from 16 to 18 would, I'll take it, right? I'll take it every time, 10% move. So Oscar looks good. And then Hartford Financial, this one, broke out of the base, pulled back to the 50 for the first time, right? It's automatic. It's a given, right? The big run, the breakout, the big run, the pullback to the 50 support, and we rip higher, and happens every time, right? No, it doesn't. Like I said, it doesn't happen every time. I'm going to show you here in a minute. And then Allstate made a new high today. Looks pretty good. Broke out of this little consolidation pattern, pulled back to the 50. Once again, found support, moved higher, made a new high today. But it's not a guarantee that if you break out, from and then pull back to the 50 that you're going to make new highs. But it is happening with those stocks. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, and as a sector that I rarely show is the food sector. Definitely inflationary if you go to the market and try to buy food. But this is Sprouts. I was going to put this on my ready list as well, but like I said, I'm just trying to keep it small this week. This one's consolidating in a flat base pattern. It did trade above the old 66.53 and made a new high today, new 52-week high. So just observing here. We're just observing. I'm not buying Sprouts, but it looks good. This is VITL Farms food meat products. This is where the $10 eggs made this thing run a little bit. Eggs aren't that much anymore, but the stock is still running. This is a trend trader's dream right here, right? It just it's down here at 14, broke out on this day here, and it's just traded higher, like surfing Kelly Slater style, 18 to 25. That's a 50% move roughly. Looks pretty darn good as it just trades with that 10 EMA, that green line there. So yeah, that one looks darn good. I'll take it every time. I know I didn't buy it, but I have been observing it. That's all. And the last one I want to show is KLG, which is a spinoff from Kellogg. The cereal, the Frosted Flakes, they're great. Tony the Tiger and all that. Saturday morning tradition in America does feed your kids sugar bombs and make them run wild. Anyway, this one is just an IPO base, and it's running higher. You can see the earnings line is heading due north, and the stock is heading due north. It's amazing how that happens. But just mentioning these food stocks, and this is one that I'm going to continue to monitor. You know what? I got to look on the yeah, it pays a 3% yield, not bad. How about that? Anyway, I'm going to stop right there and say thank you for watching. We're going to watch tomorrow for the Dow for a follow-through day. And anyway, I am fibbing because I have not only one more thing, I have two more things today. I wanted to point out, AMD, broke out of this base here way back in like early November when the rally started. AMD was one of the leaders on November 1st, and it just romped higher, pulled back to the 21 and made a new high 227. Then it pulled back to the 50 for the first time and made this, it squatted there. Like I said, that little bear wedge, like I just showed you on a couple of those stocks or those crypto stocks, you got to get off that line because what happened? This thing fell out and really sold off. I'm not so sure that institutions, really hate the stock or don't want to own it. It's just they're rotating out of it and into other sections. They're diversifying. It becomes, too large. Technology becomes too large in their portfolio, and they have to, redistribute their profits elsewhere. And so, if it takes a trip to the 200 here, this black line, that's okay. Stocks are going to do that from time to time. If you're going to hold a stock for a long period of time, years and years, they're going to visit the 200. So to me, AMD's doing nothing wrong. I'm interested in hearing their earnings report on April 30th. I do need to see this earnings line start to tick up a little bit to justify, all these institutions that came in and bought. You see these big blue bars. That's heavy institutional buying here for a long period of time. Last fall and December and early 2024. So they're placed big bets on AMD, and now they're just taking profits. And it's a show me. Like you got to be from Missouri, man. These guys got to show me that they've going to deliver the goods and raise guidance, and this AI bull is going to be sustained for a long time. And that's what the CEOs have to deliver here. These companies, can't just mention AI. They have to deliver on their balance sheets, and that's why this week and next week are so important to hear from these companies. But AMD, to me, yeah, it slices 50 and it takes a trip to the 200. It's still doing nothing wrong. But the trip to the 50 after the breakout, is it a guarantee to bounce and go higher? No, it's not. It can also fall out. So this is the stock market. There's no guarantees. But like I said, the odds are generally with us. So I bring up Vert here. It traded. It broke out a long time ago, and has been ripping higher, and it pulled back to its 50. But they report the 24th, which is Wednesday. So if you hold it and have it from, back in a proper buy area, you're probably fine. But man, you can't be chasing it up here at the 80s because it could sell off even with a strong report. You never know how they're going to move. Broadcom, which was bought out by AVGO a long time ago for 37 billion. But I still call it Broadcom because my wife worked there and I know some people at Broadcom, and it's Broadcom to me. But anyway, they sold out. Anyway, we saw here that it broke out from this base here, this ascending base pattern, and ran up to the 1438, then pulled back to the 50 for the first time, and aha, it did rally. But now this time, the second time it came down and it sold off below. So today, it got back a little bit of what it sold off on Friday. Like I said, you want to see about half. It was down $54 and got back $20 today. So I'd like to see a little more tomorrow, but definitely watching Broadcom. And then SMCI, they didn't raise guidance when they announced their earnings. So we're going to cry like babies. This one, though, has had a long run for a long time. It looks like the party's over here for SMCI. They report on April 30th. They could report strong earnings and still sell off. I don't see a trip back to return to glory, as they say, at 1229. It's just that's that break, that vertical violation of the moving average usually portends trouble. Like I said, when you sell off, what did it sell off? 200 something? 200, yeah, $214. You want to get $100 back the next day, and it's just, there's no buyers there. So, and there's going to be new leadership with this new data points in this quarter. The old guard, they're not all going to return to glory. Some of the old leaders are probably still like NVDA, trade higher, but some of them are going to fall off, and there's going to be some new ones that are going to emerge. And that's what we're looking for, those stocks that are emerging from their new earnings reports. There's a couple of them that I like setting up. I'll get to that tomorrow. I have to go through the earnings reports tonight. Cadence, which reported, is down 9%. I didn't hear anything about the report. That's a pretty bad reaction, though. This is a semiconductor, software, the designer for the semiconductors. And so I don't know. I've got to read through the report, and I'll have more on that in the morning. And then Cleveland-Cliffs, the steel producer, down 2.5%. I did see that they missed their numbers and then announced more of a stock buyback program. So these companies with money just buying stock back, I guess that's okay, but I don't know. I prefer a dividend yield. I don't have a dividend, so I don't know. Stock buyback program, I guess that's okay, but the stock is down 2.5%. I got to read more. I'll have more tomorrow morning on those two stocks. Anyway, thank you for watching. Today was day one on the Nasdaq and the S&P of an attempted rally. We got to wait till day 4 to see if we can have a follow-through day and a little short covering action before these big data points from Microsoft, Meta, Google this week. At mcstockcharts.com, we never give up.